Hello students, in this video lecture we will talk about crop production and management. So as you can see here, in crop production management, the first thing, very important thing is nutrient management. So there are 16 nutrients which are essential for plants. How many nutrients are there? There are a total of 16 nutrients which are very important for plants. Now from air they get only two kinds of nutrients. One is carbon and the other is oxygen. So out of 16, two nutrients are given from air, that is carbon and oxygen. Next, water supplies hydrogen. So from the roots through water we get hydrogen. So out of 16, three nutrients we are getting, two from air and one from water. This is all for plants. Now soil supplies the rest of the 13 nutrients, all the 13. So what are those 13? They are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese. After manganese is boron, after boron is zinc, after zinc is copper, and MO is molybdenum, and Cl is chlorine. So these are the rest of the 13 nutrients which plant needs. Let us proceed further. The nutrients which are obtained from soil are basically divided into two categories. So we divide them into two categories as you can see over here. The first category is the macronutrients and the second category is the micronutrients. So macronutrients include 9 nutrients. Okay, they are macronutrients. Why are they called macronutrients? Because they are relatively large quantities. So they are used in relatively large quantities by plants. And what are those? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So these are the macronutrients. When we talk about micronutrients, there are 7 micronutrients. Okay, so there are 9 which we call as macronutrients. These were those 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, these 9. And now micronutrients, we have got 7 micronutrients. What are those 7 micronutrients? They are required in very small quantities. Therefore they are called micro. Micro means chota, macro means bada. So they are required in small quantity like iron, Mn is for manganese, B for boron, Zn is for zinc, Cu is for copper, Mo is for molybdenum, and Cl is for chlorine. But a simple question can be asked, why are these nutrients important for plants? Why do you think the plant requires these nutrients in the first place? So the answer to this one is, the deficiency of these nutrients affect physiological processes in plants. Physiological process. Deficiency matlab in nutrients ka nahi hona. If the plants are not able to get these nutrients, what is going to happen? These physiological processes may happen. Like first one is reproduction. Reproduction is getting affected. Second, growth of the plant also get affected if they are not getting proper nutrients. And third, susceptibility of diseases. Means plants are then more vulnerable to diseases. उनके ऊपर बीमारियां जल्दी लग सकती हैं अगर न्यूट्रिएंट्स नहीं होगा. उनका ग्रोथ रुक जाएगा, वो छोटे रहेंगे, लंबे नहीं होंगे, बड़े नहीं होंगे, रिप्रोडक्शन में भी प्रॉब्लम आएगा. So these are the 3 points for which the plants need nutrients. Now to increase the yield, the soil can be enriched by supplying all these nutrients in the form of manure. The first one is manure and second one is fertilizer, right? Because only the 3, which is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, we are getting from air and water. All others need to be supplied to plants. So if the soil is not having these nutrients, definitely plant is going to have some deficiency in terms of physiological processes like you have seen. Okay, and how do you cover it up? Usko kaise pura kare? So if you want to give a plant all the essential nutrient so that there is an increase in the yield. Okay, so we use manure. 2 things we can use for that. We can use manure and we can use fertilizer. ये दोनों चीजें हम use कर सकते हैं. We can put these things into the soil so that plants are then able to get all the required nutrients. First one, as you can see over here, is manure. Let's talk about manure in little bit more detail. manure are the natural fertilizers. To remember that manures are not made in factories, they are natural fertilizers. Next, they are prepared by decomposition of animal excreta and plant waste. So you take plant waste, you take animal waste, animal excreta, and decompose it, you will get manure. Then manure includes farmyard manure. There are different types of manures which we are going to talk little later. Farmyard manure, compost is there, vermicompost is also there, and then green manure is also there. Composting with the help of earthworm, this is very, very important. With the help of earthworm is called vermicomposting. So what are they going to do? They are going to use earthworms. They help in hastening the process of decomposition of plants and animal refuse. So what the farmers do, see, they want to prepare compost, right? For that they take animal excreta, plant waste, maybe create a small hole in the ground, or maybe some concrete tanks they are making, and then they put all these things over there, cover it. Then it will take some time, 2 months, 3 months for the manufacture of manure. But if they want to hasten this process, that means अगर वो इसको जल्दी करना चाहते हैं, process और fast करना चाहते हैं, so then what they do is they use earthworm. Then it is called vermicomposting. They use earthworm. What earthworm does is, earthworms are allowed to grow into these composting pits. These earthworm digest, they eat all these animal excreta and plant waste. So when they eat these animal excreta and plant waste, what happen is they also excrete. Okay, these earthworm also excrete, which is called as vermicasting. And this vermicasting, what they give out, is used as a manure. So earthworm eat all these animal excreta and plant waste, and in turn excrete to give you vermicasting, and that vermicast is used as a manure. It's a very, very good manure. So as you can see a picture over here, this is a picture of vermicomposting. As you can see here, there are these earthworm, as you can see over here. Okay, they are allowed to grow and they eat all these animal excreta. Next, what are the advantages of manure? So here we have listed some of the advantages of manure, why manure should be used. The first advantage is manures enrich the soil with nutrients. That is very, very important. So manures, when we are adding manure to the fields are getting all those required nutrients. Now, manures add organic matter, which is called humus, to the soil. This is also very, very important point about manure. So in addition to giving the nutrients, they also add organic matter, which is called humus, to the soil. Next, the organic matter is in manures provides food. So this organic matter or humus is kind of a food for all the soil organisms. So all the microorganisms which are present in the soil, humus or the organic matter acts as a food for them. So therefore, it helps in providing nutrients to the plants. Right? Let us go to the next point. These are the 3 points. Let us move on to the point number 4. So fourth point says, organic matter in manure also helps in improving the soil structure. How is it helpful in improving the soil structure? Is it increases the water holding capacity of sandy soil. So if you talk about sandy soil and if you add manure to the sandy soil, it will help in holding water, because you know in sandy soil if you are going to add water, it just passes through it, it is not retained, and plants want water to be retained. So if you are going to add manure in such kind of sandy soil, it helps in holding water. One more use of this is in case of clayey soil. So if you're talking about clayey soil, organic matter helps in drainage and also it helps in avoiding water logging condition. In case of clayey soil, you must have seen the water gets retained over there, water logging takes place, and because of the water logging, plants are not able to grow properly. So if you are going to add this organic manure to the clayey soil, there it does a different purpose. It helps in drainage. It helps in avoiding the water logging condition. जब आप मैन्योर को क्ले सॉइल में मिक्स कर देते हैं तो वो थोड़ा पोरस सी हो जाती है, सो उसके थ्रू पानी नीचे जा सकता है, सो वाटर लॉगिंग की कंडीशंस अवॉइड हो जाती है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट आकर के देखते हैं बच्चों. द नेक्स्ट वन इज मैन्योर आल्सो प्रोटेक्ट्स आवर एनवायरनमेंट फ्रॉम एक्सेसिव यूज ऑफ fertilizers. We all know that fertilizers are also used in our fields and crops to grow them properly, but we have to remember that fertilizers are chemicals. So the more manure you are going to use, the less fertilizer will be required. So manures in a way protects our environment from excessive use of fertilizers. Let us see some of the disadvantages of manure. Along with some advantages, there are a few disadvantages also. See, the first one is that manure is very bulky, very heavy to carry. Low nutrient content is there. Nutrients no doubt are there, but the quantity of nutrients is not that great. So low nutrient content is there, they are bulky. Next, being bulky and voluminous, they take a lot of volume, lot of place. They are inconvenient to handle, they are inconvenient to store, and again inconvenient to transport. So this is the only problem with manure. They are very bulky, voluminous, so it is difficult to handle them, difficult to carry them, difficult to store them. Next problem with our manure disadvantage is they are not nutrient specific. That means, for example, a plant needs nitrogen, then we cannot resort to adding manure into it, because you already learned that they are very low in nutrient content, and specifically if the plant wants nitrogen, we cannot supply that by using manure. Then we have to resort to fertilizer, a special fertilizer which has a greater percentage of nitrogen in it. So along with some advantages, you have seen some disadvantages also of manure. Now let us see what are the different types of manure. We have already discussed it in the previous slide. The first one is the farmyard manure, FYM, farmyard manure. What is a farmyard manure? It is decomposed mixture of cattle excreta. So use cattle excreta, urine, leftover organic matter, fodder, whatever is there, you take it and decompose it. That becomes your farmyard manure. Second one is the compost. What is compost? It is prepared from farm and town refuse, such as vegetable refuse, animal refuse, sewage waste. So all these things, such as vegetable refuse, animal refuse, sewage waste, fecal matter of human beings, all that you take and decompose it, you get compost. So in composting, both aerobic and anaerobic microorganisms are there, and they help in the process of decomposition. Next, third one is green manure. We have already spoken about vermicompost earlier, so we are not going to talk about it once again. Next one is our green manure. As you can see here, prior to sowing of the crop seeds, मतलब फसल उगाने से पहले, बीज डालने से भी पहले की बात है, there are some plants, okay, there are some plants like sun hemp. As you can see over here, we have a picture of sun hemp over here, or gawar. These are grown in the field. So they are grown in the field. Then what is done? Once they grow, then they are mulched by plowing. So that means then a plowing is done. Okay, and these plants, sun hemp and gawar, they are mixed into the soil. They are mixing these green crops with the soil to improve the physical structure and soil fertility. So is this clear? So जब ये दोनों चीजें सन हेम्प और ग्वार थोड़े थोड़े बड़े हो जाते हैं, आप प्लाविंग कर देते हैं, हल चला देते हैं, और ये जितनी भी फसल है ये मट्टी के अंदर ही दबा देते हैं. तो ग्रीन कलर के पौधे मट्टी में दब जाते हैं, वहीं पर वो डिकम्पोज हो जाते हैं. दे आर गोइंग टू इंक्रीज द फिजिकल स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द सॉइल. दे ऑल्सो इंक्रीज द सॉइल फर्टिलिटी. इज दैट क्लियर? Green manure also supplies nitrogen, very important. Then when you are putting these plants, mulching them and plowing them and mixing them into the soil, it definitely improves the physical structure and soil fertility. It also supplies nitrogen, phosphorus, and provides protection against erosion and leaching. So these are few advantages of using green manure in our fields. Next, let us talk about fertilizers. Now, when we talk about fertilizers, we all know that they are good for the soil, but they are also harmful for the soil. So these fertilizers, they provide plant nutrients, because we know that manures are not very good in providing specific nutrients. They have got very less quantity of nutrients. So then we need to add fertilizer. Then commercially manufactured, they are manufactured commercially. So they are not made in our fields, but they are made in factories by using chemicals. There are fertilizers which are called as NPK fertilizers: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So they supply three main important nutrients. Now, some of the examples of these fertilizers are urea, NH2CO, NH2. Another one is ammonium sulfate, which is NH4SO4. Next one is potassium nitrate, which is KNO3. So these are some of the fertilizers, chemical fertilizers which are used in our fields. Now these fertilizers, we have to remember that they should be applied carefully in terms of proper dose and time. So they should be applied very, very carefully. Why they should be applied very, very carefully, especially in terms of proper dose, how much of the fertilizer should be applied and at what time it is to be applied. If we go wrong with these two things, let us see what is going to happen. So sometimes if fertilizers are oversprayed, okay, so if you are not using the proper dose, if you're overspraying the plants with the fertilizers or putting more amount of fertilizers in the soil, then they get washed away due to excessive irrigation. So when you're going to add water into the soil, these excess fertilizers which are not absorbed by the plants, right? Say for example, one plant needs only 10 grams of fertilizers and you are adding say 100 gram or 50 gram of fertilizer, that will not be absorbed by the plant. So when you are going to irrigate that particular plant, irrigation करेंगे, उसमें पानी डालेंगे तो पानी के साथ बह जाएगा. So this excess fertilizer is then going to lead to water pollution because it is going to go into the nearby river or nearby pond, creating a water pollution. So therefore we need to be very careful of how much of fertilizer should we use. The next thing is the continuous use of fertilizers. If we are going to use fertilizers again and again and again just to increase the yield of the crop in a particular area, then it can destroy all the soil fertility over there. So instead of the soil fertility increasing, the soil fertility gets destroyed. And how that soil fertility gets destroyed is because the organic matter is not replenished. You're getting my point? We are adding manure. Manure provides organic matter. That this organic matter is acting as a food for the microorganism. But if you are not using manure and you're replacing manure by fertilizer, fertilizer never supplies this organic matter or humus to the soil. So those microorganisms will not get their food. So what will happen as a result? The microorganisms in the soil are harmed. They are going to die by using excessive fertilizer. So both thing is very, very important. Using the correct amount, correct dose and putting it at a correct time. Now, this can also be asked as one of the question, like how to differentiate between manure and fertilizer. So here is a big list. Let us read one by one. The first one is, we know that manure is a natural substance, whereas fertilizer is a man-made substance. When we talk about manure, small amount of nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Yes, they are low in nutrients, whereas fertilizers, they are rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Next point for manure is it adds a great amount of organic matter, which we don't get from fertilizer. So it does not add any humus or organic matter to the soil. Manure, they are not nutrient specific. We already know that, but fertilizers are very, very nutrient specific. This is a good point about fertilizer. Next, manure, they are cheap because they are made from animal, human excreta and all, and they are prepared in rural homes or the fields. Whereas if you talk about fertilizers, they are costly and they are commercially prepared in the factories. So these were the differences between manure and fertilizer. Next we come to organic farming, and let us see what is this new term organic farming. So when we talk about organic farming, it is a farming system with minimal or no use of chemicals as fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, etc. So that means in this kind of farming, they try not to use, minimal use, very, very less, बहुत ही कम fertilizer, because fertilizers are not good for the crops, so they try avoid using them. Okay, fertilizer को use नहीं करेंगे, pesticides जो chemical pesticides हैं, herbicides हैं, वो भी use नहीं करेंगे, या to a minimum extent. So if they are not using all these things, then what are they using? They use maximum input of organic manure. So they are using manure, they are using recycled farm waste. Okay, and then they are using blue-green algae in the form of biofertilizer. If fertilizer is required, they add these blue-green algae into the fields. Also, if there is a problem of pesticide, they do not resort to using chemical fertilizers. What they use? They use neem, because neem is also a natural repellent of all these pests and these insects. So they use neem, they use turmeric as biopesticides. And when they are storing the food grains, that time also in the grain storage purpose, they use neem leaves and turmeric to keep these pests away. So basically organic farming is giving you pure food, and giving you a pure food in a sense, not using all these chemical fertilizers, which is definitely a thing in our near future, which will definitely help to improve our health. After this, the next topic is irrigation. When we talk about irrigation, what is irrigation? Irrigation is nothing but the process of supplying water to the crops, right? By means of canals, you can use canals, you can use wells, you can use reservoir, you can use tube wells, all this for supplying water to the crops, because water is a very, very important and essential part in the growth and development of plants. Without water, plants are going to die. So let us talk about the advantages of irrigation. So here we have a list of all 4 very, very important points. Let's see the first one. Crop plants are irrigated with fresh water to supply 2 essential elements, that is hydrogen and oxygen. This we already know. From water they get hydrogen and oxygen. Next, irrigation provides sufficient moisture. It also provides moisture for the germination of seeds, because if water is not there, the seeds are not going to germinate. Third point about the advantage of irrigation is that irrigation is essential for the growth and elongation of the roots. For the roots to grow, for the roots to become long, water is very, very essential. Next thing, the last point is water dissolves all the nutrients of the soil and then they are absorbed by the roots. We all know that soil contains all these nutrients, and these nutrients then enter into the plant via roots through water. So water absorbs all these nutrients, and through the roots, through the xylem vessel, then it reaches to all the different parts of the plants. So these were the advantages of irrigation. Now let us see the irrigation system over here. So some most commonly used irrigation system are as follows. The first one is called the canal system. The one more system we use is tanks. We use wells, or we use river lift system. This is one more system. So you can see over here we have got 4 systems of irrigation. Let us now look into details of all these systems one by one. Let us first talk about the well. So well, there are 2 types of wells. One of them is called the dug well, which you have seen, you must have seen this in your villages also. A deep well is dug into the ground, and the next one is a tube well, where a hole is made into the ground, and with the help of pipes the water is taken out. So in a dug well, water is collected from the water bearing strata. आप इतने नीचे गड्ढा खोद देते हैं जहां पे नेचुरल नीचे का पानी हमें मिलना शुरू हो जाता है. That is normal well. Whereas if you talk about tube well, can tap water from the deeper strata. From these wells, water is lifted by pump for irrigation. So tube well mein, with the help of pump, the water from the lower strata is pulled up and is used. Next comes the canals. This is usually an elaborate and extensive irrigation system. Canal system is very famous. In this system, canals receive water from one or more of the reservoir or from rivers. So from nearby river, water is directed to these canals, and then these main canal, it gets divided into branches of canals, and then they distribute this water to irrigate the field. So this is very, very common practice in India. Next, after wells and canals, let us come to the third system, which is called the river lift system. In areas where canal flow is insufficient or irregular due to inadequate reservoir release, in those kind of places, the lift system or river lift system, to be very precise, is more rational. That means it is used. Now, water is directly drawn from the river for the supplementing irrigation in the area close to the rivers. So many a time the areas which are very, very close to the rivers, directly water is lifted from the rivers and is given to the field. This is called river lift system. Last system is tanks, where there are small storage reservoirs which intercept and store the runoff of small catchment areas. Fresh initiative nowadays, apart from these 3-4 methods, all different methods are also used, like water is available for agriculture in the form of rainwater harvesting is also done, and watershed management is also being used. So by these methods we try to tap whatever water is available, because in India water is not available throughout the year. From January to December, water is not available. For most of the crops, water is available only in the monsoon season. So by using rainwater harvesting and watershed management is a better way. So what is done in these methods? This involves building of small check dams. Now these check dams will lead to an increase in the ground level of the groundwater level. It increases the groundwater level, and these check dams also stop the rainwater from flowing away, and it reduces the soil erosion. Let me show you one picture of a check dam. See, these are the 2 pictures of the check dam. So as you can see in both of them, okay, some cemented area has been made over here also. in this field they have made small barriers with the help of these cemented check dam. So what is going to happen, जब यहाँ पर पानी बह करके आएगा, the problem was when the water flows, it takes away all the soil, that is soil erosion will happen, and also all the water will flow away. It will not seep into the ground. But if you are going to create such kind of check dams, what is going to happen, एक तो water का flow रुक जाएगा, water gets collected over here, and once the water gets collected over here, the water will get time to seep into the ground, जिससे ground level भी बढ़ेगा, पानी का ground level बढ़ेगा, okay? और the second thing is the soil which was being taken away by the running water will also be stopped at places. So soil erosion will also be prevented by using such check dams. Next, we come to cropping patterns. When we talk about cropping patterns, these are the methods for raising crops which help in obtaining maximum benefit from the same piece of land. So just cultivating crops in a given area or a given land is just not sufficient. So there are different methods by which we can increase the benefit. Okay, we can increase the yield. And what are those methods? Some of those methods are these three methods. The first one is called the mixed cropping. The second one is called the intercropping. And the third one is called the crop rotation. So these are the three methods for doing cropping. Okay, they help in raising the crops which help in obtaining maximum benefit from the same piece of land. So let us talk about them one by one. What are they? First we will talk about mixed cropping. In mixed cropping, in this method of growing of two or more crops simultaneously, मतलब आप एक साथ दो या दो से ज्यादा crop उगाते हैं in the same piece of land. Example is also given, like wheat and mustard are grown together. Then groundnut and sunflower are also grown together. So two crops, two or more crops simultaneously in the same piece of land. This is called mixed cropping, like wheat along with gram. Now, why they are doing this? So they are saying that the basic objective in a mixed cropping, why they are two crops are grown together, the basic objective is to minimize the risk and minimize the risk. That means अगर मान लेते हैं wheat की फसल अच्छी नहीं हुई तो कम से कम mustard तो है, groundnut नहीं होगा ठीक से तो sunflower तो उग गया होगा, तो chances are there to minimize the risk and to ensure against the crop failure due to abnormal weather conditions. कई बार क्या होता है, अचानक से बारिश हो जाती है, अचानक से बारिश होना बंद हो गया, एकदम धूप निकल आई. So ऐसे वेदर पैटर्न्स जो चेंज हो जाते हैं, अचानक से ठंड बढ़ गई, तो उससे क्या होता है, फसल को नुकसान हो सकता है, get damage. So if you have got two crops, okay, at least one of them will survive. So the minimize the risk by using this method of mixed cropping. Next, after mixed cropping, the next one is intercropping. There is a little difference between mixed cropping and intercropping. Now see, in intercropping, what are we doing? In intercropping is a practice of growing two or more crops simultaneously. Till here it is exactly like your mixed cropping, right? But in a same field in definite row patterns. But there is some pattern which is being followed over here. This pattern was not there in mixed cropping. So here a pattern is also followed. Like soyabean and maize are grown together. Like bajra and cowpea are grown together. So the crops are selected. How are they going to select the crops over here? The crops are selected such that their nutritional requirements are different. Say for example, if one of the crop requires nitrogen, they choose the other crop in such a way that the other crop does not require much amount of nitrogen. Okay, and the second, what nutrient the second crop is using, the first crop does not need those nutrients in great amount. So this is a very, very smart technique. So it is going to prevent also pests and diseases from spreading to all the plants belonging to one crop in a field. For that they are using some kind of a pattern. So see here, if you see this particular slide, you will understand it better. See here, like they are growing cauliflower over here. Okay, so for example, there is some insects or some pest which have started destroying the crop over here. So they will keep on spreading, they'll keep on spreading, keep on spreading, keep on spreading, keep on spreading. But because now the whole field is not growing the cauliflower together, so the disease is only going to spread to only these kind of crops which are present over here. Next, there is some other crop which is resistant to that kind of a bacteria or that kind of pest or insect. Okay, and now because there is a barrier in between, so these cauliflowers over here will not get affected. So such kind of pattern is used to prevent the damage of the crops by pests and insects. And also one more thing, as I told you, they choose two crops in such a way that they don't fight for the nutrient requirements. So this is one very good method which is called as intercropping. Other than this, the third method is called crop rotation. So what is happening in crop rotation? So in crop rotation, it is defined as the practice of growing of different crops on a piece of land in a pre-planned succession. That means two crops are not grown together. Here only one crop is grown. Okay, once that crop gets over, then another crop is grown. Okay, like this. So what is the advantage? It controls the pests and weeds, definitely. Then it reduces the need for fertilizers, because they select two crops in such a way, like if one of the crop has utilized say nitrogen from the soil, so once that crop is done, the next crop rotation, so the next crop they are going to grow is will be of leguminous plant, so that all the nitrogen which was removed from the soil is again replenished by these plants. They have these rhizobium bacteria in their root nodules. They are going to fix the atmospheric nitrogen getting converted into nitrates of the soil, so that this nitrogen again get replenished, and again one more crop can be grown after this crop of leguminous plants is removed. So it controls pests and weeds. It also reduces the need for fertilizer. Then also the third point is, by alternation between the deep and shallow rooted crops, the soil may be utilized more completely. So first you are going to grow a crop which has got very long roots, so it is going to utilize all the nutrients which are deep down into the soil. The next plant, the crop which they are going to grow, will have shallow roots which are going to use only the nutrients which are present in the top layer. So like this, the nutrients will be available for both the crops. So as you can see, we are using all these different methods of mixed cropping, intercropping and crop rotation to increase the yield from a given area.